Hey, folks, welcome to 17 Questions with Bocce, episode 14, with special guest Lauren of Court of Random Opinion. How are you doing tonight, Lauren?
Oh, I'm all right. I just, still taking in everything that's happened in the last couple days. How are you?
Same. I I took the statement well. I could see the nuance. I didn't feel any type of way about it. But when she stepped out to the Met Gala, I said, she couldn't even give us 5 minutes.
That's fair. Yeah.
She couldn't even give us 5 minutes apiece. so,
Hmm.
um, So one of the things that I usually do is I have some questions I ask, but then the majority of the questions I ask are from folks who have some interest in asking you a question. So
Sure.
I'm going to start off with the first one. What
Okay.
lens or perspective do you bring to this case that shapes how you talk about it?
Well, I have, in the beginning, I guess I got kind of interested just because of the fact that I had seen Blake Lively in a couple things. I was like, oh, I know that actress. But as the subject matter came to my attention, I think that abuse of the courts, potential abuse of the courts, which I was hearing a little bit of a rumbling about, the way the media shape things in a way that's not necessarily accurate. Those are things that I care about, and then also the things that were in her complaint um, were things that I think affect a lot of us. And I felt like I unfortunately resonated with some of it at the time, and then so I guess if I have some sort of personal connection to the subject matter, that's when I'll start to take an interest versus just like reading about true crime or something like that. And I felt like no matter what side of the story I was reading, I had some experience with, unfortunately, I think a lot of women, have an experience with abuse in their past and have been in a workplace that was toxic. And I think I've also been in a position where somebody accused me of doing some things that I definitely did not do. And so I felt like I was trying to give a balanced outlook on that.
Yeah. So when people tell you that your content resonates, what do you think they're connecting with most?
It's gonna depend on when they found me, honestly. In the beginning, I was very much just like unfiltered, real time reactions to everything. You would hear me use a lot of colorful language to describe my emotions. I think a lot of that was just like people sharing or commiserating, and I think anger at the way that I felt Blake Lively was abusing the system, the way that I didn't like the statements she and her lawyer were putting out. I think a lot of people resonated with that. But as time has gone on, I've seen a lot about the way that the Wayfarer parties, have dealt with her themselves. I've seen a lot of what they went through and how they handled it, and I guess I kind of thought like if they're trying so hard after going through all of this to be fair and to treat people with respect, why can't I do that? Why am I so set on being angry all the time, And so it was less about commiserating and anger and more about just trying to look at the situation with a different lens, trying to understand, not necessarily approve of why she did what she did, but understand how we got to this place so far, and try to be a little more balanced. So it's gonna depend on when they found me. Like I said, in the beginning, maybe more of a, "Oh, this is funny because somebody's saying all these words that I wish I could say out loud." You know what I mean? I think I got that a lot. It was like, "Oh, you're saying exactly what I'm thinking." And like,
Mm.
at some point in time, I got to a place where I was just like, "Wow, why am I saying that though?" Because it was really more of an emotion than I wasn't really doing justice to, I think, the people that you know, I don't know them, right? But people would associate me with them online, especially after the subpoena thing happened. So I was like, I'm not really doing justice to the people that I'm trying to advocate for when
Mm.
I speak the way that I'm speaking, when I handle this the way that I'm handling it. So I've kind of pivoted a lot, I guess, in a way to being a little bit more compassionate. And I'm not perfect, so I know when her claims, 10 of 13 claims, got dismissed, I just, like, impulsively said, some stuff like, "What talent?" You know what I mean? Like, stuff like that. So, like, I'm not perfect, I'm a human, but I am trying. I'm making an effort to be a little more measured. But I think it's gonna be, like, an individual thing, like, whenever somebody found me and how they felt at the time, so.
Yeah. Well, Becky in the art world asks, I'm curious what got you into content creation.
I was making Fortnite clips.
Oh.
Yeah, I was making Fortnite clips. And then I saw this story on Reddit that had to do with a guy named Clayton Eckard. He was a former Bachelor lead. I don't know if you've heard this story at all.
Yeah, from
Uh,
Dave Neal, I think.
right. That was kind of how I got my start. I saw this story about Clayton going on with this woman who had falsely accused him of pregnancy, and at the time that was all happening, I saw a lot of people saying, "Why are we criticizing her?" And all kinds of stuff like, "Why are we saying this stuff about a woman who claims she's a victim?" And I was just kind of like, listen, like they were criticizing Dave because he was the person who was really picking up on that story because he was a Bachelor Nation mostly content creator at that point. And I was like, listen, I work in mental health, and I see people saying that we should not talk about her the way we're talking about her, not accuse her because she's quote unquote crazy or whatever. I'm like, no, this is not an insane person. This is a diabolical person who's doing something intentionally to hurt someone, and apparently has a
Mm,
pattern of this. And we need to stop trying to excuse that behavior. um, I felt like Dave was getting a lot of flack at the time, so I made a video where I was talking about my job at the time. I worked in the ER, and I would do evaluations when the doctors would consult me on a Baker Act. So, like if somebody needed to be admitted to the psych hospital, or if we could discharge them with a safety plan and they didn't need to be involuntarily held, that kind of thing. And I said, I work with people like this every day. I've heard, people make threats the way that she makes threats. I've heard them make
mm.
claims that don't make sense like that. And I'm recognizing a lot of patterns of manipulation here. And I think that people need to kind of lighten up on Dave Neal. He found me shortly after that. And then one day he invited me on his show, and he
Oh.
was like, "You should keep making YouTube videos or whatever." And the rest is kind of history. It was so basically Dave, found me and helped me. So
Oh, that is very cool. I didn't even realize that when I said, "Oh, yeah, I heard it from Dave Neal." But
yeah,
that's a very cool.
it was never my intention to be making videos with my face and talking about stuff. I was just like doing games with my family. Like we would play this game called Quiplash together. I would stream it on the computer, and then they could join from their phones, and we would play this game together, and that was it. And it wasn't like a big thing. It was like I was making funny gaming clips or whatever. I was never thinking I'm going to advocate for anything. I'm going to do whatever I'm doing right now. It was never meant to be that. So
And that's amazing because then your audience just grew naturally, I guess, right?
yeah, I mean, I followed that. The thing with Owens and Eckerd has been going on for over 2 years now, maybe close to three. And so I started with that, and then of course came across this a little bit after the New York Times stuff came out and the competing lawsuits were filed. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, Out of Ideas said, "Thank you for the survivor messages you put together. And what was the moment you knew this was something you wanted to dig into?"
Well, I initially just because I recognized her, and I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna look into this because it sounds like it's a pretty big story. If the New York Times is putting it out there and everybody's kind of buzzing about this on social media, um, and so I was like, oh, well, I recognize her. She's she was good in Gossip Girl. And shamefully, I love that show. Still, I rewatched it recently. Don't judge me, but you
I've
know
never seen the show, but I would never judge you.
it's good. Okay, I don't care what anyone says. It's a good show. All right. It's not like you wouldn't like look at that show and think that's a Lauren show that she would like to watch. It's a good show. You know what I mean? Like it's so messy. I love it. Um, but I watched that, and I had seen, of course, Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool and all that, and I saw them being sarcastic with each other online, and I always liked that relationship dynamic. I thought it was funny, and so I was like, let me look into this a little more and see what's going on here. And then I read her complaint, and some of it just like didn't add up. And I
Mm,
remember when I was going through the time, I was like, I haven't read his side of things. I haven't read his lawsuit. And I remember something that really upset people at the time was like, I don't know if I'm going to do it on stream. I don't know if I'll have time to do that, but I'll read it, and then people got really upset with me. They're like, no, you have to do this and this and this. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll look into it. And then it just kind of took me by, it just kind of gripped me. I was like, wow, there's so much going on here. There's so much media manipulation going on here and apparent abuse of
mm,
the courts that I do not approve of. I think it's extremely offensive when somebody positions himself as an authority or an advocate for women's rights, for the rights of victims, and they're not being entirely truthful. Especially when the dance scene footage came out, is like that's not how you
mm.
described it in your complaint, and that was my first huge red flag. But I just kind of once I started digging into that and seeing that somebody out there was kind of tormenting someone who I felt like they were lying about, that's when I
Mm.
felt like this is something that I wanna follow through on.
Yeah. It's interesting because for me, the one thing that stood out to me when I read the lawsuit and both lawsuits,
Mhm.
I said, whoever lied about the lift scene most likely has lied about everything else. And I
Yeah.
said, because I said, if a person's willing to lie about something they don't need to lie about,
Mhm.
what I mean, and I said, not that anybody needs to lie about anything,
Right.
but it was someone choosing to lie about something because they think it's going to harm their narrative. And I
Right.
said, whoever, and that whoever was, I can't say her name right now. I'm so upset with her. I just can't.
That's
I
fine.
mean, but anyways, there now several people asked. One is called Mari Lynn, one, and L Man and Michelle. All want to know if you're still planning to take the LSAT, go to law school, and become a lawyer.
Yeah, I won't even be applying to law school until the fall. I'll take the test, and I've kinda gone back and forth, and I wanna be very, very sure before I commit to anything. I applied to and got into law school a long time ago. I'd even put down a deposit, and then I had some family stuff going on. I was gonna have to move away like 5 hours, and I was like, "You know what? I wanna stay closer to home. I'll reapply later on to the school that was nearby," because I applied so late in the year when I was doing all that, that I just, like, I didn't get into the other one, I was waitlisted. It's like, I'll take another shot at it. And then the next year, I kind of life just happened. I had other plans, and I never reapplied, and then COVID happened, and so I never reapplied. And then I just at that point, I like had to get a job that was going to lead to like years and years of full time work. So I was like, I can't just keep going thinking about going back to school forever. And then I did go back to school anyways, mostly for I was thinking about doing digital media stuff since I got into YouTube. I took some classes. I didn't get a degree or another degree or anything. Um, my first degree, my bachelor's was in psych, my master's is in criminology. Um, and then so now I was doing digital media. And then I was like, well, I still, in the back of my mind, I was kind of like, I wish I had gone to law school, but
Yeah.
I just I didn't have it in me. I was like, I'm in my 30s now. Like, that sounds terrible. I don't want to apply to
It
school again,
it's
take
never
tests
too
again.
late.
And like, because I was just taking classes at the community college,
Mhm.
for digital media. But I was kind of like, where am I really going with this? Other than
Mm,
I always loved being in school. Other than loving being in school and wanting to do something else with my life than what I'm doing right now, where am I really going with this? So I took a break from that, and then I got subpoenaed, uh, and I had to learn to navigate the federal court system by myself, and
mm,
I hated it, but I loved it. It was kind of fascinating to me. It was stressful because it was something that was so like random and personal, but it
mm,
was also like, God, this is like I wish I had been doing this, the last 10 years of my life instead of whatever the fuck I've been doing.
mm.
So,
Yeah.
um,
And
yeah.
when did you start to be interested in wanting to be a lawyer? You said 10 years ago? Was there something that
I was 24. Yeah, I was 24. I had graduated with my master's in crim. I didn't want to be in academia. Um, I had swam through college, and when you swim through college, it's like most of your life revolves around swimming. And so I never really figured out what I wanted to do, but I knew I was interested in criminology. So I went and I did my master's in that, and I just figured I'll figure it out from there. At some point, I thought I would work in law enforcement, and then was like, this is not a time in my life, knowing everything that goes on in this world, that I want to work in law enforcement. So I
Mm,
changed my mind on that. And I started really thinking about it. I was like, well, maybe I want to go to law school.
mm,
Because I was interested in, um, not it's not civil rights specifically, but specifically like free speech issues, and all that. Because I was seeing the political climate and how the way that people would like kind of go at each other. And I was kind of like, wow, I really this is something that I really don't want our country to lose sight of, is that we all have our kind of differences, and that we all kind of mix together, and we're allowed to have differences of opinion. And I was, seeing that become a boiling point more and more. And so that was something that I felt kind of passionate about. Um, and so I moved back home. I was in New York for 6 months or so. I lived in New York for 6 months, and I moved back home
mm,
right before my first winter out there, which was good timing. And I started applying to law schools there, and I got into some law schools, but they were all like the closest one I got in was, like I said, 5 hours away. So I was just like, I'm not sure this is going to work out at this time in my life. So,
Mm. Well, I always wonder, like, the different career paths people want to pursue in their lives and why that happens. So that's very cool to kind of get a little
mm,
bit of that background.
sure.
So the next one is from Gameaholic, uh, KX-M8F wants to know, how do you juggle your time from content creation, full time job, and possibly studying for the LSAT,
hmm
etc.
You'll see me disappear for like a week or two at a time. That's how.
Mm.
So I just like disappear sometimes. It's like I have other stuff I have to do, but for most of the time, I work from home full time now. I have a part time job on the side where I sometimes take shifts, but that's mostly on weekends. And so I mostly just have to, if I want to do, some recording or something, I just walk from one desk to the next on my break. So that makes it very easy as far as work stuff goes. But then sometimes it's busier than others, and I just like you won't see me for a while. I'll just poof, you know. So and then my family lives right down the road, so it's not it's like I guess the easiest way to explain it is I don't have very far to go from point A to point B at any given time, and so that's how it's a matter of convenience, really. So
Yeah. And I love the fact that you're like, sometimes I'm just gonna disappear.
mhm,
Sometimes you won't see me for a
yeah,
bit, and that is kind of the way to do it.
right, yeah.
So Carol Schneider, aka Docket Updates, wants to know, why do you believe you were selected for the subpoena?
So I guess we kind of go back to that wild swing I was talking about earlier, where at first I was like very impulsive and very emotional in my kind of discussing these matters, and then now being a little more supportive and measured in my coverage. It's like I'll never know the answer to that question,
Mhm.
because it could be because I called her some names. Okay, right? It could be because I called her some names, which I wouldn't say those things now about her, but I don't take them back either
Mm.
because that's how I felt at the time. That's how she made me feel with her, what she did, right? But
Mhm.
and then also it could be because I had really worked hard to show some support for Justin from the community by putting together, bringing together some groups of people to share their voice, to share their. I don't know if you've seen them, but I had some projects where I worked on voice clips from people who had kind of shared their thoughts about, the people, mothers, sisters, wives who said, this kind of thing, it affects families, it affects us too when people make false accusations. So, um, that maybe that, or it could just be because she is a random psychopath. I'm not sure. I'll never get an answer to that question because her lawyers would not answer my question,
Mhm.
despite my patience and repetitive, like trying to while being professional. I didn't email these people and be like, your clients have, you know, words that I'm not going to use right now. What? Tell me why you want my bank account number. But I
Mhm.
did email them, professionally and just be like, this doesn't make sense. What you're telling me does not just like, explain to me why you're asking for these specific things. I would like an answer as to why, an offer of proof as to why you're asking for these things. And they intentionally beat around the bush and would not answer me. So I'll never know the answer to that question, unfortunately.
That's maddening.
Yeah, and then they, did that whole song and dance where they tried to make it seem on the court's docket like they met with me or something. And I was
Mm.
like, absolutely not. One of us was trying to make a meeting happen, and it was not them.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, that's frustrating. And I think about that a lot because we only know of the 107, but they said at that time in that letter, for now or some, I forgot the exact phrasing in that letter. So I was like, so there could have been even more than 107 content creators.
maybe. Yeah.
And a part of me just wondered a lot, how did they choose? I mean, did they just close their eyes and throw darts? It didn't seem to have any rhyme or reason. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
don't know. You would think that, not to I think that they've had the same question, so this is not a call out being like, "Why weren't you" know what I mean? But, like, Zach and Donna, for example, "Hey, why aren't you messing with them?" You know what I mean? Like, I was like, "They have way bigger following than me, and they talk about you just as often, so why are you not bothering them?" And I think it's probably because she mostly picked on people that she thought wouldn't fight back, with the
Mm.
exception of, like, an Andy or a Perez or a Candace Owens who she subpoenaed personally, not just through the Google subpoena. Through the social media subpoenas, she mostly subpoenaed people who like would not have the means to fight back. But Andy was looped in on that as well. I know a couple of people ended up having to pay legal fees. Katie without a crystal ball was one. Kirsty Fla had and I love Kirsty, but I always say her name wrong. No matter, it's been over a year since I met her, and forgive me, Kirsty, but she had to pay legal fees as well, I believe. And some people, they did have to unfortunately pay their dues to fight it. And it's like it
Mhm.
was so disingenuous because it's like even those of us who didn't have a lawyer who just all you had to do was push back a little bit, and they were like, "Oops, we have no grounds to do this. Guess we'll take
Yeah.
it back."
Yeah, I
Yeah,
noticed that. And I mean, I think, like, the what the like, Perez and Andy and Candace, I think, was actually named by Wayfarer. And
right.
so I think that's the only reason that they did choose to pursue people that could fight back, was because they actually had a reason to.
Hmm.
Um, but you're right. I do think they thought, they're not going to fight back.
No,
And
probably.
I
And
think,
when I say the means to fight back, I don't mean that Zach and Donna should have to spend money to fight. I mean she probably looks at people with bigger followings and thinks, well, they might, have the audience to fundraise for an attorney or something like that. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying like Zach or Donna should ever have to be subpoenaed by a Blake Lively, but that is it is interesting the way she picked and chose the people that she picked and chose. So
yeah. Well, she made some bad choices. I mean, it was a brilliant and encouraging, even though it must have been frustrating and also traumatizing in a lot of ways. But people fought back and
mhm.
they made their their concerns known.
Yeah,
And so I was proud of all of you that were able to put something on the docket. And I just wish the judge made some sort of ruling on on certain things instead of just letting
yeah.
it be
I
taken
think,
back.
I look at it differently than some people will, and, that's not to write off anyone else's feelings. I just think everybody who went through that is entitled to have their own kind of feelings about it, and I personally, have after working through it myself, I feel like the judge, there's only so much he could do that was is typical for a case like this with a non-party asking for the things that we were asking for. I feel like the courts and the norms in the court is maybe what needs to change. The subpoena power that attorneys have against non-parties is maybe what needs to change. I think that that was abused
Mhm,
intentionally for improper purposes. But I think the judge himself, he never approved of the subpoena. Blake's attorneys sent that. Subpoenas can be sent by attorneys without approval of the court or the judge. And so when I get upset or I realize or remember the stress that I was going through, that wasn't because of Judge Lyman. That was because of Ezra Hudson, who signed off on that subpoena and then refused to even verify that she did so, going so far as to instruct her staff not to tell us
mhm.
the truth when we called to ask about it. And she intentionally left us hanging with that. So that was Ezra Hudson. That wasn't Judge Lyman. Judge Lyman. People can say a ton of things about Judge Lyman all day long about why they don't like him, and I don't agree with a lot of his decisions. But with that one in particular, as much as a lot of people who went through this experience with me might disagree with me on that, he's not the one that I feel irritation towards in that regard.
I've been trying to take in everybody's perspectives, and
Yeah,
is that reminder that people can go through kind of the same situation, but have it impact them in different ways and have
yeah.
different takeaways, from those moments. But,
You
um
you have somebody like Cassidy who is anonymous, who had to deal with the judge in a different way than I did. So she's obviously gonna have a different feeling and perspective because she had to take steps that I didn't have to take. She had things to worry about that I didn't necessarily have to worry about because here I am with my, like, face and name out here, which has its drawbacks for certain, but I didn't have to worry about protecting my identity per se, just my bank account and my credit card numbers. So
I
yeah.
mean,
So you're
so
gonna get
very
different
important.
different answers from different people depending on, who it was, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Lamoli Villa said, "What's the most frustrating and satisfying from reporting on cases?"
Well, I think sometimes you're able to make an impact and help people who need to hear the things that you're trying to say. Um, so that's obviously, I guess, on the more satisfying side. On the not so satisfying side is, no matter how small you are, if you're on the internet saying anything that is worth saying, you're going to get people out there who are going to treat you awfully for it.
Mm,
And so that was something that I had to get used to that I was not used to. It happened really fast, I felt. I had a very small YouTube channel, and it's still small relatively, like I'm a blip on the internet still compared to most bigger podcasts and stuff like that. But I would say I was 1/6 of the size that I am now at the time, and it was still difficult. But then as it started to grow more and more and more, you get more people who are trying to um tell you how to be or what you're allowed to say or how you're allowed to express that. And then there were like some people who would come out of the woodwork. Like there's some real weirdos on Reddit who are like, I do Lauren in high school, and then they would say stuff that made it very clear they didn't go to my high school. And I was like, yeah, okay. And then I had one person on that subreddit who like apparently has been like following everything I've done since I was in high school. And it's just like, Lauren's a terrible person. Lauren's an abuser. And I was like, who are you? I don't know you. And listen, people will say the weirdest shit about you imaginable, and you have to learn how to navigate it. And one of my personal flaws is that I'm reactive. So I had to learn not to respond to stuff like that because no matter how dumb it is, no matter what I say, they're going to continue to be dumb. And so like you can't you got to learn to like manage that. And I don't have a lot of patience, and sometimes I don't have a lot of foresight. And so I had to kind of learn how to navigate that. So I would say that it's a much easier question to answer. What are the drawbacks versus what are the benefits? If you can't tell. But it's just there's been so much where I'm just kind of like, you people are crazy. There are so many crazy people. And then what's interesting though is like a lot of the times when I realize that there's something that I might need to change or that I
mm.
might need to do differently, it's because of those crazy people. I look at them and I'm like, huh, I wonder if people look at me like that. I wonder if that's how I come across to some people. Maybe I should reflect on my own standards a little bit more because
Mm.
I do not want to be these people. You know what I mean? So like it's kind of weird. It's a double-edged sword, I guess.
I love though that it makes you turn inward and
Yeah,
go, how can
right.
I become an even better person? Um, because I mean, I mean, it does get wild. I am like, I don't know, a very, very small account, and I still get stuff, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what, h- what possesses folks? And I think
Mhm.
there is maybe a little bit of like dehumanization that
Yeah.
happens because it's a screen, or there's a perception, you know, that somehow you're a different person or you're not a real person or you're just a content creator and whatever that might mean to people.
Yeah.
But it is kind of interesting. I mean, and for me, when I look at your channel, I'm like, that's a large channel to me because I'm not anywhere close to where that
No,
was,
fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
so but and also I think people really register and resonate with you, and I can tell because people always speak about you positively in my comment section, and they're like, "Oh, you should check out Lauren's stuff,"
Oh,
or
I
all
appreciate
of these
that.
different things. So,
Sure.
you have a great following, that's very supportive of you. So that's always fun to
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
you know.
definitely.
So Dima underscore 9794 says, "What's your unpopular opinion about this lawsuit?"
Oh, I mean, I think I have a couple maybe, but I think I just told you one of them, which is a lot of times I disagree with the judge on a lot of his decisions, but I don't hate the judge. I when I went and saw Judge Lyman in person, I thought that he was very uh, fair, very in touch with the issues. I think a lot of people think that he's biased and that his past is a problem, and I respect those opinions. I think, honestly, when I look at those opinions, I see even though they're different than mine, a lot of thought has gone into that. A lot of research even has gone into that. Um, but when I judge people, I go off of what I see most of the time, because I know that even given how people react to me, it's like you can judge somebody based on just what you see on the internet, and it's not necessarily not necessarily the truth. It's sometimes we frame our opinions that way, and it's like you're missing out on so much of the person and so much of what they're doing. So I think that would be one where I'm very cautious with my criticisms, not because I think it's necessarily a bad idea to be critical of our public figures and our public officials. I think that the federal judiciary is a branch of our government, of course, our branch of our federal government, and so people should criticize if they feel there's something to be critical of, but I'm very I'm a little more reserved. It takes a lot to get me to really go in on someone and be like, "You're a terrible person. You're doing a terrible job. I absolutely can't stand you. I think everything you do is like you'd have to do something like weaponize the Me Too movement against someone with false allegations. That's you know what I mean? Like I don't know, but I'm very reserved um when it comes to criticisms of people unless I've also gotten that feeling based on my own kind of research. So it's hard because sometimes I see these strong opinions and I'm like, I know people aren't going to like this because I'm not gonna get out the pitchfork. Uh, and I know I can already see theirs, but I just you people have to let me come to things on my own. So if someday
Mm.
I were to read something, if this had gone to trial and I watched Judge Lyman act in a way that I thought was extremely biased towards Blake Lively's side, then I might have changed my tune. But I have to like see it myself, So that's an unpopular opinion. I'm aware, but I always just tell people like I totally respect where you're coming from. I'm not gonna like fight you on it. You know what I mean? Just like you just gotta let me be myself. And I personally, from what I have witnessed, um, I didn't hate him. So
With that in mind, and this is not one of the questions, this is just my own personal question for you, but what do you think his decision will be in regards to 47.1?
I don't think that's gonna happen. I think that would be kind of outrageous. But then again, the thing that trips me up is like they waive their right to appeal that decision. So that's the only thing that makes me think that he might possibly consider that because I think the um possibility of having that decision appealed is sometimes what would cause someone to be more measured. So I'm not 100% confident, but I don't feel like it's going to work out for her, but I'm not 100% confident. So,
That's fair. That's fair. I mean,
uh-huh.
I haven't had a chance to process it myself, but I was like, I wanna know what you think on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Marilyn 1 also wants to know, aside from what I just asked you about 47.1, the question was, what was your opinion on the settlement and the joint statement?
hmm I think if this had happened early on, and if you asked me like a year ago, I would have been like, this is BS. I would have been like maybe mad and like very like swearing against Blake Lively for all she's done. But like I want these people to have peace and to be able to move on. And my concern is for them. My concern is for
Mhm.
their ability to move forward and to be happy and to eventually kind of thrive in their careers again, which I do believe. I know a lot of people don't think so, but I do believe is going to happen. I think with time that'll happen. And so I feel like I've shifted to a perspective where I'm less interested in seeing this kind of metaphorical, like emotional bloodshed from Blake Lively on the stand. I need that less. I want that less than I want these people to be able to move on with their lives right now and not be tied to her anymore. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not upset about it. I mean, I would have loved to have seen the trial. I would have loved to see how the culmination of all this and how it turned out. But if what's best for them is to move on and to not go through that, which would have been at least 3 weeks of torture before they even got to, tell their defense. So, like,
Mhm.
I just think that if they want to move on from this now, then I'm happy for them. Again, that's probably another unpopular opinion. I'm like, I see a lot of people who are really not happy with this, but I'm like, my concern is I've kind of learned to think less about who I'm angry at, and think more about why I'm angry with them and what would really happen to kind of to kind of make that situation better. And in my opinion, it's to make sure that the Wayfarer parties have their peace and to move on and to get what they want, and that's what they wanted. So it's not really about me and my feelings. I think that I'm not upset about it. So
Yeah, I do the only concern I have and the only worry I have when she showed up at Met Gala, and then also this declaration of her little victory lap and how
sure.
the however she framed it, I said, "Oh my word, she's never gonna stop.
hmm
She's never gonna stop." And I think I was like, I thought that maybe just for a moment she was going to allow peace. And there's a part of me that goes, I don't think she knows how to give that.
No, this was never going to end. If she lost the trial, like when I really think about it, if we had gone to the trial, and even if she lost the trial, she was never going to stop. This was never going to stop. They would have pivoted to the court system betrayed a victim or whatever. It was never going to stop. Her diehard supporters are never going to change their mind, even with a verdict.
Mhm.
nothing would have ever changed. Like, if you'd taken the trial, the only thing that would have happened is they both probably would have gotten raked over the coals. And like I said, I don't get me wrong, given like the hype around this trial, I would have loved to see how it played out. But I can see that it mostly would have just been pain on the horizon for everyone
Mm.
involved. And even at the end of it, it's like everybody's just completely dragged. And the people who feel very strongly about this, who have been following it the whole time, they're probably not going to change their mind because the strangers on the jury came to a different conclusion than they did. I know that if the jury had come to a different conclusion than I've had this whole time, I probably still wouldn't change my mind and be like, "Yeah, go Blake Lively." You know what I mean? Like, that wasn't gonna happen. So, like, what was ultimately going to be the outcome of that? I guess you could try to see it as, like, maybe it would help out with his, reputation as far as, like, in Hollywood and all that, but really, once you get raked over the coals like that, even if you win the case, you're kind of like you're inviting someone to bring out the darkest possible version of the horrible things you've been through, and it's like
Mm.
everybody was gonna get blown up. So,
Yeah. No, I agree. And honestly, if it turned out to not have worked out with Wayfarer, the first thing I honestly would have thought is that they didn't get to see all the evidence. That's the
mhm,
first thing I would really see because we didn't know which pieces of evidence they were going to get an opportunity to look at. Um,
right. That was all gonna come down to the day on some of it, so, there was no guarantee on anything.
yeah. So sketchbook mama wants to know, what are you sad to not get to see because the trial is no longer happening?
Um, I mean, just from the perspective of, like, somebody who's interested in how these kinds of trials play out, I did wanna see how things were gonna go on cross exam with her.
Ooh,
Um,
yes.
I've kind of reconciled with that to where I'm like, I'm not sad necessarily that I won't see it. I think it's a little bit like of a it's anticlimactic is how I would say. I feel it's
Mm,
anticlimactic, and so I feel like it's kind of a bummer that I'm not gonna see after following all this stuff how that goes, but I don't really feel sad per se about anything. I feel more like I do feel relieved for Justin and Jamie and everyone else that it's over. So,
yeah. I really had wanted to see her potentially be impeached with some of the things that she had
yeah,
said. I would love that.
right.
So, I mean, sometimes wonder about the Jones versus Abel case. I always felt like that case would settle, because
Really?
I felt like there was more incentive for them to settle. But a part of me goes, please surprise me and be the one that goes to trial, because I think that if it goes to trial, that would be the juicier one. There's more
Hmm,
information that I feel like we have the opportunity to potentially see, especially. I don't know if this is the case, but the background stuff on the exchanging of hands in regards
yeah.
to the text messages. So
Mhm,
I would love that. So YouTube Digest 6098 said, it's very disappointing to me that the public really doesn't know that Justin's SH claims were dismissed because of the puff pieces that are being written in favor of Blake Lively. It's also
yeah.
disappointing that the public will never see the Ryan Reynolds text that show what a despicable human being he is. Is there any way to get the truth told mainstream?
It sounds like there's no NDA. So it sounds like yes. And I think a lot of people weren't expecting that because with a settlement in a high profile case like this, who doesn't sign an NDA? So like that's kind of like one of the craziest things about it. Is like, yes, you're gonna hear all that stuff, you're gonna hear it from them. I don't know how in depth they're gonna go. I don't know the details of the settlement behind the scenes or if they said there's specific things people aren't allowed to talk about, but it sounds to me like nobody signed off on muzzling themselves. So it sounds like yes, there's a way that that's gonna come out. So
I'm excited for that. And I know a lot of folks are hoping that Justin ends up doing his documentary,
yeah,
because that would be nice.
yeah.
All right. Sinking Universe 123 said, I'm fascinated. I mean, by the hats and guitars that sits behind you. Could you elaborate more on what those things mean to you?
Oh, I didn't have anywhere else to put them. So, I just had a box of, like, hats, and I was like, "I don't have anywhere else to put these."
No, no deep meaning.
No, I wish I had a better answer for you, but no. I mean, I put ones back there that I like, and then I put the other ones in the drawer. So you'll see me like switch them out sometimes. So I guess I put like some of my favorite ones out there. I have, not necessarily because I like so like the koala hat, right? I'm not like a koala fanatic, right? But
Yeah.
my friend gave me that when we were in
Mm.
Australia, and so that's like a good memory for me. And so I put that one there, and then I have the hat that Andy gave me when I went to go film for his documentary, the Popcorn Planet hat. You can probably see the side of it right there. I have the gator hat that I would wear to games when I went with my friends. So I'll put stuff out there that I like that makes me think of stuff. But like for the most part, it's just the reason I put the hats there is because I didn't have anywhere else to put them. So somebody recommended a shelf, which I think was a good idea, but laziness. So haven't done it yet.
But I always find it fun to see what people notice
Hmm.
about, like, the background or the things going on and what they
Yeah,
pick up on, so that's kinda cute that they picked up on that, and you're like, "Not I just had no place to put it."
right. I mean, there's more hats. They're just shoved in a drawer somewhere. I was like, well, why don't they won't all fit in this drawer? So what am I gonna do with it?
Yeah. Well, Lman-LV said, "Did you swim competitively in high school or college? What event did you swim?"
Yeah, so I swam through high school and then I swam at UF for 2 years, University of Florida. And then I finished at University of Arizona the last 2 years I swam in college. I loved swimming butterfly, but unfortunately, when I went to college, sometimes it's about what they need you to do and not necessarily what you love and what you're good at,
Mm.
which is what happened to me. So I was kind of a mediocre like distance swimmer, which is like I was like the bane of my existence, especially for the last 2 years. I was like, all I want to do is like swim what I love to swim. But yeah, you kind of have to do what the team needs you to do sometimes, which is so I ended up being more of a mid distance swimmer than what I really love to do. But when I had a choice before I went to college, I would swim distance races and freestyle, but I would swim them butterfly just to see if I could keep up. Because it was fun. I was like, it was fun and challenging, and everybody's like, "Why would you do that?" It's like, "Cause it's fun. Cause it's crazy. Why wouldn't I? Like, what? When do you ever see somebody do something like that?" And I think I can. So I loved that. But like when I went to college, I had a lot of good memories. I had a lot of fun times with my teams and stuff. I also had a lot of painful times, and it was rough. I moved all the way out to Arizona. Needless to say, some stuff went on there. So a lot of emotional stuff that stuck with me and I've had to work through. But um, yeah, I don't know. I just kind of unfortunately when I don't usually talk about this, but like unfortunately I kind of lost my love for it. I really wanted to quit by my senior year. I
Mm.
was like, I don't even want to do this anymore. But like I loved the environment. I loved being with the people that I was with, but I was just like, dude, I'm so not passionate about doing I felt like I was stuck doing what other people wanted me to do and not what I wanted to do. And so that really sucked. But for the most part, I would say I look back on like I swam for like 16 years. I would say for the most part, I
Mhm.
look back on all that and it was really great. I got to do some fun stuff. I got to swim in college, which a lot of people don't get to do. I got to go to Olympic trials.
Ooh.
I was like 20, I think at the time. It was back in 2012. So
Oh,
yeah, I was
wow,
in the
that's
20s.
super cool.
Yeah, it was a good time. I had lots of good memories. Most of those were late high school. Um, I had a lot of ups and downs. I, like, hated it first when I was really young and my mom made me go to swim practice, and then I loved it, and then I hated it, and then I loved it, and then I hated it, so it really just depends on when we're talking. But yeah, there was a lot of, emotional ups and downs with that. I think I learned a lot that I took with me, when I went on to grad school and stuff like that, just, like, always wanting to try to outwork everyone around me,
Mm.
um, just to do the best that I could, and then I struggled with that, to be honest,
Mm.
when I was just, like, doing the best that I could and working as hard as I could, and I just, like, could not keep up sometimes, and I think it's just 'cause I just didn't love it anymore. But, you know, there's a lot that went into that, but yes, I did for a long time, so
How young were you when you learned how to swim? Because I see pictures of me by the ocean, and I
mm.
never learned how to swim, and, people keep trying to teach me how to swim, and I always wanted to know how to swim, but how young were you when you learned how?
I don't remember, I would say probably, like, I learned how to swim when I was, like, 6, you know what I mean? But, like, I
Mm.
started my mom put me on the swim team when I was, like, 8 7 or 8. Yeah.
Wow, so
I
very,
just had
very
to do something. And she's like, "You can't eat popcorn and, like, watch Pokemon all day. You have to go do something, Lauren." And I was like, "But why?" You know? It's 3:30, Pokemon's on the TV. So, you know,
Well, so La Moli Villa said, "What's your favorite thing to do when you're not working?"
sleep. I
I
don't have
feel
anything to
that.
add.
I feel that to the depths of my core.
Yeah. No, like I said, my family lives right down the road, so I'll go see them. And I love to travel, but I haven't been doing that as much lately because I was working. I was basically working the equivalent of two full time jobs for such a long time, so I could pay for traveling. Because I went to in the last few years, I went to Australia like twice a
Oh,
year
wow.
since like 2022. Once or twice a year, I went to Australia. But I couldn't keep up with like the amount of work I was having to do to pay for that.
Yeah.
And I just like I got so exhausted of I was commuting to the hospital downtown out here to take my shifts, and it was like a 45-minute drive out. I would work for 12 hours. I would drive back 40 minutes or so, depending on traffic. It was just like exhausting. So I'm kind of having to find other things to do because I'm like I can't just jet off everywhere because I don't want to. To be honest, I'm too tired to work two jobs all the time to keep up with it. But I was traveling a lot for the last few years. I went out to Australia a bunch, like I said. I went to Europe. I went to Ireland a couple times. I went to
Oh,
the UK for the first time a little over a year ago. I go to these conventions. It's called Wentworth Con. Wentworth is my favorite show. It's an Australian-based prison drama. If you haven't seen it yet,
I have
you
not.
should. But if you are a fan of that show, you should know they're doing a spin-off. They announced it. But a
Oh,
lot of Americans don't know because they only advertise it in Australia. So yeah, it's that's one of my hobbies. I think I would edit show reels, and then they play them at a lot of the conventions before the actresses come
oh,
out, and so that's fun.
that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So it's kind of that was like a side hobby. I never did it for pay or anything like that, but like I did it as like a side hobby, and so I like doing that. Let me think. What else? No, that's all I got. That's all I got.
No, I mean, I think I mean, I have always wanted to go to Australia. People have
Mhm.
said, "Come to Australia." When did my trip to, the Philippines, Singapore, and Taiwan, and I was trying to figure out where to go, people were like, "Come to Australia." So, if I finally get a chance to go to Australia, what do you think would be, like, some of the best things to do while in Australia?
Um, I mean, they're not gonna be like grand things. I've done a lot of things when I was out there, but when I went to last time I went to Melbourne, which was about a year ago. It was close to a year ago now. Um, the Yarra River, it was like almost empty that time of year because it's
Mm.
cold over there at that time of year. It's summer here, but it was cold over there. And so you can go and rent these like little boats, and you don't have to have a boating license or anything because it's not like a fast boat, but you can rent a boat and then you can like drive it down the river and just kind of look around for a little while. You could rent it by the half hour, and I like doing that. I did that for like an hour and a half. I put my headphones in, and I was just like strolling down the river. It was kind of fun. I liked that. I went out to the mountains. Last time I was in Sydney, I went out to Blue Mountains, which you'd see kind of a little trek to, but that was good. I went to this little wildlife thing they had, and I got to feed the penguins.
Oh.
That was cool. Yeah. So I would like work nonstop for like months, and then I would just go do like all these kind of like cool things that I definitely like otherwise would never have the opportunity to do. The thing is, I was getting burned out,
Mm.
so I was like, I have to take a little break. I won't be able to go this summer, but maybe who knows? Maybe I'll get the energy to pick up more shifts again, so I can do that. But
Yeah. Well, we've reached the end, except the final question I usually ask folks, what platforms can people follow or support you at?
I mean, my YouTube channel is Quarter Random Opinion, or you can find me at Lethal Lauren 904. I mostly just use that. I have other social media, but on Instagram, I mostly complain about like weird comments that I get on YouTube. So it's mostly you won't miss anything if you don't go to my Instagram. If you go to my TikTok page, you'll find that I post like I'll disappear for like a month at a time because I'm like I don't understand the TikTok very well. I barely know how to edit videos on there, and I was kinda like, I don't know how to put the document on the back. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like,
Yeah.
I don't wanna learn all that. So, you'll see me there sometimes, but it's all the same username. It's Lethal Lauren 904. What else? No, I'm pretty sure that's it. I don't really use anything else. I have a Facebook page. Don't add me. I won't accept I won't accept anyone else on my Facebook page. Not since I started getting that weird phone call. So
Oh, no.
not
Oh,
yeah
I'm
yeah.
surprised nobody asked about that. That that's one of the questions. But
They probably just tired of hearing me talk about it at this point. So, it's
but I'm
fine.
so sorry that actually happened. It is wild
Yeah,
what people
yeah.
will do. So,
I don't
I'm
know how they found my phone number. I mean, I guess there's ways anybody can find anybody's phone number, right? But I'm just kind of like, from now on, anything that has to do with my family, I have like another private Instagram account. I won't accept people on. I won't accept people on Facebook anymore. There's things I'm like, we're gonna set a line here. But yeah, you can find me pretty much anywhere else.
everywhere else but Facebook, folks, is where you
Right.
you should find Lauren. With that said, if you enjoyed anything about this 17 questions with Baji, please like it. Subscribe to me if you haven't subscribed yet, and also obviously if you have not subscribed to Lauren yet, please subscribe on all the platforms that she is at, except for Facebook. And
That's so specific. It's true
but
though.
I, but thank you, folks, and thanks, Lauren, for spending time with me tonight.
Yeah, of course, no problem.
Have a good one.